Happy Tuesday, City of Billings. Sergeant Stovall here down at the Crime Prevention Center with this edition of the 5-0 Forum. Today we're going to dive into a little bit of social media. We're going to talk about some topics as far as that goes with our Facebook page specifically. The City of Billings, obviously the police department, we have our own Facebook page. One of the ways that we reach out in this 2024 technological era we're in. One of our ways to get information out to our general public, not only citywide, but statewide, and then obviously it can go worldwide there. So some of the things we want to talk about in terms of, crimes, why we report, who we report them, who's reporting them, and then just some of the ways that, some of the comments that are on there, our Facebook Messenger side of it, all those things there. So just a way for us to get the information out. Obviously, you've been seeing quite a bit of that over the past couple of years in terms of our Facebook usage and getting information out to the media, to the public and that. So we just want to highlight some of that information. We've received lots of questions about that as well, in terms of when it's staffed, who's in charge of it, those types of things. So obviously we want to clarify that for you as the general public, and then just give you guys some information in terms of moving forward, how it's used, why it's used, and that type of stuff here. So as we dive into that subject today, I am joined by my lieutenant, Matt Lennick. He and I kind of run the Facebook page for the most part, and we're just going to dive into what we do and why we do it with Facebook there. So, Matt, thanks for joining us today. Why don't we'll kind of start with just the overview of our Facebook page and why we developed it, where it came from, and we'll start there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So obviously a lot of the public knows that we've moved to Facebook, and we've had that for a couple years now. We moved from Twitter, I guess now it's X. And there was a multitude of different reasons, but Facebook is really easy for us to use. All of our commanders are hooked into our page. It allows us, it doesn't limit us on characters. It allows us to kind of put information out and share with the public what's going on and different things, and get a lot of interaction with the public. They ask questions or leave comments and that kind of thing. And so it's a good form of social media for us to communicate with the public. But that being said, I don't know when we rolled it out a couple years ago that we really ever laid out to the public how exactly we were going to use it, or why we put certain things on there and we don't put others, and where those limitations kind of fall. And so when we get a lot of questions about that, and so I thought today would be a good time to maybe bring some of that up.
Sure, absolutely. So we'll kind of start with the small, and then we'll jump into the big there. So we've got obviously, if you're familiar with Facebook, you have the Facebook page itself, and then it also comes with the Messenger format there as well. So one of the things we offer in the ability for the public to do is to reach out to us through the Messenger app itself, right? So let's jump into the Messenger side of it there. We can, send messages. Obviously, people that are familiar with it, they can see in there anytime they send us a message. We have a direct reply back stating that it's not reviewed or looked at 24 hours a day. If this is a non-emergency, please call our dispatch at 657-8200. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the Messenger is a really good way to get in touch with us if you have questions, or you're looking for some information or something like that. The thing the public needs to know with the Messenger, like you already said, it's not monitored 24/7. We don't have enough staff to sit on Facebook, nor do I think the public really wants a police officer sitting behind a desk just monitoring Facebook all the time. Yeah. And so really the people that are monitoring Facebook or Messenger are myself, you, and our administrative sergeant. We're about the only three that actually go back and forth on Messenger. And so it's really important to know that it's not a place to report crime. Right. If you have something going on, that is not a place to send. We won't dispatch officers from that platform. We don't have that capability. And we might not even see it until the next morning, or however long it takes us to actually see it. Because in all honesty, we all have our own families and stuff, and we're in our offices a lot, but we're not there all the time. Right. And dispatch has no eyes on that program or on that platform. And so if you're looking to dispatch won't see it. And people don't necessarily always understand that dispatch actually, while they're connected to our department, they're not overseen by the police department. They're overseen by the fire department. Right. And so they have their own protocols for taking calls for service. And if somebody doesn't have a phone that can make a phone call, they obviously still have the text 911.
Yes.
But not the messenger side of things. And so it's a good place to just, hey, I'm looking for advice. I'm looking to get this question answered. Is this something that you guys can help me with? Like we're pretty responsive to those type of questions. We try to get on. I try to look on that page at least twice a day during my work week, just to make sure I'm catching stuff in the morning and then I'm catching stuff in the afternoon before I'm heading out, and try to get answers. But it could take a little while. So I think people need to know that if you're going to use that, be patient. We do it as best as we can to get on there and answer things, but sometimes we just got other things going on.
Sure, absolutely. And, I think highlighting some of that as well in in terms of one of the other pages we have that's associated with the police department is our Crime Prevention Center page that myself and our crime prevention officer, Officer Nichols, utilize that. And a lot of what the public will see on that side of things, something we've had a lot of success with is identifying criminals and crimes. It's whether it's a theft or something that's going around, and we have surveillance video that we're able to post a picture of them on, and that's an area where it is appropriate to use the messenger app is to, hey, give me a call, or hey, I know who this person is, it's such and such, and then they can give that information over to us, and we can identify and follow up with that on that information side. But certainly not an area where if you've got an in progress crime, you're requesting an officer to come out in terms of something to dispatch or reporting crimes in general. The messenger is maybe follow up questions to something, asking, hey, there's a big police presence here. Is this somewhere where I can stay away from, in the event we haven't already put something on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Those areas.
Well, and then just keep in mind that question might go unanswered if one of us is not available to answer it.
Sure.
So read our normal post first, and if you have a question specific to an incident, by all means, you're welcome to ask. And then if one of us is available, we'll get back to you. But usually the other commanders that have access to the page, they don't see the messenger.
Yeah.
You won't see your normal shift commander on messenger writing back and forth with different people. They got a bunch of other things to take care of. And occasionally I'll get people that want to know, hey, what happened in my neighborhood? I guess I would advise that if you're going to ask those type of questions, you're probably going to need to give me some specifics.
Yeah.
We have about 300 calls for service a day, kind of on average, somewhere in there. And so if I don't have like specific timeframes or locations or case numbers, it might take me a little bit of time to actually track down exactly what was going on. But I am willing, if that comes up and you have those type of questions, I just might have to hit you up with some follow-up questions.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we jumped from Messenger. Obviously, we now have our Facebook page, as you had mentioned earlier. We've used this as our main platform to reach the public with. Once we got out of X or Twitter, and then that side of it there. So when we utilize Facebook, what are our main goals or objectives for utilizing Facebook?
So we use Facebook in two ways. On like my side and the shift commander's side, we're using it to notify the public of an incident. It might be an incident where they can expect traffic delays, or there's public safety concerns, or it just might be notifying them of a major violent crime. We don't obviously put every one of our things out there. We have some kind of loose standards on about what we're looking to notify the public on. Not everybody wants to hear about every shoplift from Walmart, but they do want to know if there's been a shooting, stabbing,
sure,
these major incidents. So those are the things that you would most likely see in those type of situations. And then yourself and I will also use it for our public relations side of things. Yep. So your positive stories, that kind of stuff. And we try to balance those as best as we can, because it's very easy to go one-sided with social media and with our Facebook. And so that's what you're going to see. You might see some announcements here and there. You might see some hiring announcements. We, our administrative sergeant puts that kind of stuff out there, just making sure the public knows what's going on, or if there are messages that need to come down from the city, or our other law enforcement partners, you might see some of that stuff come through. But for the most part, you're going to see notifications from incidents and then or what we're involved with on the public relations side.
Sure. So let's take a scenario. We get a stabbing somewhere throughout town. It's put out. What type of information are we going to release there?
Yeah. So I think what's important to know is that, and I've seen this kind of misconception a little bit in the comment side of things. We don't have support staff that help us with the Facebook. Like we already talked about, the commanders are the ones that have that. So those messages that are coming out, unless you or I are available, and kind of in the know about what's going on as it's playing out, those posts are being made by the patrol commander, whether it's a sergeant or a lieutenant. So they're taking time during the middle of their incident or towards the end when they have a moment just to get that information out to the public. So we've had that question before, where how come this didn't come out for, this happened an hour ago?
Yeah.
Well, because if they're on a stabbing, it might take time to get everything sorted out before they get something out. So that's important to know. But what you'll normally see in an incident like that is, and we have a procedure in place, what they're allowed to disclose, because we have to be careful and keep the integrity of the investigation while also balancing, letting the public's right to know play out. So you'll see usually the case number, date and time of when it happened, a very general description of the incident, where it happened, and then if we have anybody that's actually charged with a crime, that is when you will start to see identifying information come out.
Sure.
You'll see the charges if they know what those are at the time, and then you might see an age and you'll see a name. Those are things that they're allowed. Now, just remember, when they're charged with a crime. If they're not charged with a crime, only in exigent circumstances are we allowed to release, a person's name as a suspect of something like that. So we would be talking about serious threats to the community, something where time was of the essence for a victim, where we have to find this person. So you don't see that very often, thankfully, from us, but you will see it if they're charged. Victim information, we are not allowed to provide victim information. So only thing you'll get from us on a victim is male or female, and or maybe an age. And if, we might talk about if it's a local person or not. But that's it. They're not allowed to give anything else after that. And then you might see some updates later on. If something changes with the case, you'll see a commander that'll go back in and add an update. If somebody gets arrested or a road opens up or something like that. And then there's rules that they're just not allowed to release. And so they can't give out confidential criminal justice information. Like I said, we don't give out victim stuff, but we also don't give out any addresses. That's just one thing that we're just not allowed to give out. And then we don't give out any witness information. And we don't talk about medical status, that kind of stuff. Those are things we might talk about a serious injury or life threatening, but we won't come back and give updates on somebody's medical status. That's theirs to share. And so we have that procedure in place, and that's what you're going to see followed usually.
Okay, excellent. And that's something we highlight, and then especially, you guys have seen over the last few weeks, we've had some situations where maybe somebody's out in the public doing that, and in those situations, we on scene or us, when we get to the scene, we're able to gauge that to understand is there a threat to the public right now? Is this information that has to be put out? Is the person that we may be dealing with or looking for, do we have them surrounded, and we're working through our process to apprehend them, because you do see that a lot on Facebook. It's where's an update on this, or why aren't you telling us more? Why hasn't I've seen, let's do a reverse 911. Everybody needs to be notified of this. Those are things that we do weigh once we're on scene there. To realize whether it's something that we need to send out to the public, or if it's something where it's a situation, but we've narrowed it down to a specific area. We have the situation contained, and we don't need to put additional information out that might jeopardize our investigation. One of the things that a lot of people don't think about is in some of these situations, the person we're looking for probably has Facebook. So, putting that information out and giving them a heads up, is something that could jeopardize our investigation on that as well.
Right. So, and yeah, you're 100% right. And one thing that I've noticed a lot is that there's a call for us to release photos of suspects, whether they're in custody or not. And that's just not something that we do.
Right.
Number one, even if we make an arrest, the investigation itself might not be over. We could be in a situation where we are having to do photo lineups and talk to witnesses and make sure that we're piecing everything together. There's investigations on the back end of things that need to take place, and putting that kind of information out to the whole world might jeopardize that investigation. And then the photos themselves, like jail photos and stuff, those aren't ours.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, people don't always remember that YCDF is a organization through the county. It's not the city. And so while I have access to that kind of stuff in our records management system and we share that with the county, it's not my photo to release. And so local media needs to work through their sources, if they choose to release that kind of stuff, or once it goes to court and things are actually officially charged in a court system, that's when you would normally start to see those type of things released. But the public is not going to see the Billings Police Department move towards releasing photos of suspects. And we are pretty careful with the photos that we do put out. Even when we're dealing with like missing persons, you'll see that the photo is up while we have an active investigation, and then in the interest of just trying to be respectful to that victim and that family, you'll see that photo is removed. The post is still there, but the photo is gone. And then we do the same. You were talking about the Crime Prevention Center and your identifying your ID program. Officer Nichols puts those up. Once he gets information from the public and we verify the identity, he goes in and adds an update. Suspect's been identified. And the picture is gone. Because we just want to be very careful about not jeopardizing an investigation and respecting everybody's privacy. And in all honesty, we have to remember, like, you're innocent until proven guilty in our justice system. And so while Facebook is a really good tool for us to identify people and get information, it's important that we weigh all sides of that.
Sure. Absolutely. So we get some of these stories or posts of incidents that we're dealing with. And they can take a mind of their own, so to speak. Obviously, we have open comments on there. There are some guidelines to our comments and what can and can't be posted on there. But we also get times where there's misinformation being put out. What type of stuff have you seen there?
Yeah, so comments are a tricky thing with a public forum. And I guess the public should also be aware that while we kind of peruse through some of the comments here and there, no one on our department just sits down and reads all the comments. Goes back to like, how really do you want us spending our time? I mean, and I don't think that the general public wants to pay me all day to sit and read hundreds and hundreds of comments. And so I'll keep an eye, and every once in a while, one of us will see something. Usually it's the three of us that we've already talked about. We'll see something where it's important enough that it might require a response. And so you will see us respond to some things here and or there, but for the most part, we don't engage. We don't respond with that kind of stuff. If you have a specific question, I would encourage you to reach out either directly to one of us, or through the messenger. And then, and then the other thing with comments, like you said, we do have some guidelines. The Facebook it's just set that way. It's not going to let you post a bunch of vulgar language. It's not going to let you add links. And that's all set as a spam deterrent, because otherwise our page gets overrun by the amount of people that are trying to spam our page with links and different things. So those things won't be allowed. It just won't happen. And there's always like you said, it just kind of takes its own path. There's always people that decide that they need to comment something, true or not, or what they believe or what they heard. I guess I would just really encourage the public, when you are looking through the comments, use caution with how you're gaining the information about the incident through Facebook comments, and that goes for other pages, not just ours. I mean, we have all these neighborhood watch pages and that kind of stuff that they really, if you get into the weeds on those, they they really go off sometimes on some different stuff, and it's pretty interesting to see people's perceptions on different things. So just be cautious about 100% believing everything that you're reading because somebody's writing it under one of our posts or one of our articles. Try to verify that information if it's important to you to know. Is really the take home from that.
Sure, absolutely. And it's, there there are times, people may think that they know why we're doing what we're doing or where we're doing what we're doing because of this and that. And given the ability as a public forum to put stuff on there, that can lead down way stray off the regular path that we're on there. So if there are questions or reasons like that, yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We can always clarify. That's one of the things is we, have the Citizens Police Academy. One of the reasons we put on a class like that, because we're able to show the public, some of the reasons and explanations of why we're doing what we're doing, rather than leaving it open to speculation. And then you can jump, to whatever idea or wild hair that you think comes to mind. And then it takes a mind of its own. And then it takes away, information could be released about a person or somebody based on, comments on Facebook. And that's certainly something that, we need to, especially in victims of crimes, we need to be coherent of that, in that we don't want, a family being notified of something that didn't happen or that did, or just that misinformation that might come out there as well. So, and on to I guess piggyback on that with the perception of crime. Obviously, it's 2024. Social media kind of runs the world in terms of the way of getting information out. In that, you can share our posts. Our posts are shareable. People will do that, whether it's people in the community, whether it's the media outlets that we have here. They do that, but then it kind of builds its own monster, so to speak, of we've got this crime, but then it seems like it's 10 times, more crime because of everybody sharing it and it's seeable by everybody. How has that kind of changed for us?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting concept. And I don't want to discount what we have going on in our community because I think it's important. We have stuff going on, and we're working really hard to try to address it and deal with it. And I think we have a lot of partners that are doing the same thing. So I don't want to say that we don't have things that we definitely need to be working on and we should be working on. But the idea that everything we're doing, especially the big incidents, are all in the public view now all the time, and back when you and I started in this profession, that was unheard of. I mean, and especially working like night shift and things like that, like we dealt with a lot of this stuff back then. 20 years ago, you had shootings and stabbings and that kind of stuff. But if you didn't have media that showed up to the scene because they happened to catch something over a scanner, then it kind of just went by the wayside. Like we were still doing our investigations and making arrests and those type of things. But it wasn't really in your face as much as it is now.
Yeah.
And I think that it leads to what I call the Chicken Little syndrome, right? Like the sky is falling. And that's why I was talking about the balancing of our page, which is a difficult task, because if all you see all day or all you choose to see all day is the negative and like what's happening, and you start to develop this idea that like, I can't leave my house because I'm going to be a victim. And it's not that you shouldn't be cognizant of what's going on and you shouldn't be aware of your surroundings and, the activities that you're partaking in and that kind of stuff. Like that's not true. Or that's, you should do all those things. But it very easily plays into this idea that like, oh my gosh, it never ends.
Yeah, we're in a war zone.
Right. And in all reality, you can really go about, the large majority of our public goes about their day-to-day life without any problems at all.
Yeah.
And you just be a little cautious and know, kind of what's going on. So it's a great tool, and I guess I would caution the public, make sure you're keeping that in mind and you're kind of keeping that in check in your thought process, that, it's easy to really look at all that and just think, man, it's just the worst it's ever been. And like I said, we have things that need to be working on, and I don't want to discount those. But if you're being careful and you're being aware of what's going on in your life and your family's lives, there's a really good chance that you could just read about our stuff and it's never gonna significantly affect you personally.
Absolutely. And, and you also, on the flip side of it, you touched on something too, is where, we do try and have that balance. A lot of the stuff that comes out, our positive side, that's been one of my goals in this public relations position is getting that out. It's easy to Google or, search anywhere for, negativities about law enforcement or anything like that. But a lot of the stuff that goes unnoticed is the good stuff we do in the community. Our shop with a cop or the kids camp we had, Citizens Police Academy stuff. There's a ton of good, way more good than bad that we see here. And that's something that is something that we do a pretty decent job of keeping a balance on, and we want to make sure we highlight that and the good stuff that our officers are doing, because yes, as officers in all across the country, everybody's overworked in this profession. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But law enforcement in general is short-staffed. But we do a lot of good in the community. Officers all across the country are doing good. They're doing amazing things for the public, and those are things we need to highlight there as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing, and it's really easy to just go down that rabbit hole of the negative stuff. So yeah, you're going to continue to see some positive stuff from us. In fact, I just reached out to all of our shift commanders and reminded them, don't be afraid to post stuff that good stuff that happens during your shift.
Absolutely.
Because same thing for them. They're busy. They're not probably on Facebook unless they have to be.
Yeah.
But occasionally we have things that could go out to the public. So, and we're very appreciative of the public that we have that follow our page and give kudos to the officers when they deserve it. That's a good feeling for them to see that they have that public support.
Absolutely.
And so we appreciate that, and we appreciate everybody just kind of keeping an eye on what we have going on and letting us know when they think that they approve of what we have going.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, so obviously Facebook, a topic that we see quite a bit, questions of asking why, who, what, when, where, and that's where we do our best. We also do our press releases. Obviously, it's something that you'll see on our Facebook pages. Myself and Lieutenant Lennick, the majority of them come from Lieutenant Lennick. I'll release some of those, in time over that as well. How does that help us in terms of just your initial post to an actual press release? How do those differ? What sets those aside, and what more information are you taking from either one?
Yeah, so like I said, like we talked earlier, like just the guidelines of what the commanders are allowed to put out, and it's real basic information for the most part. When we get into some of those real serious crimes, or something that's just really generating a lot of media and a lot of public attention, and there's a lot of questions around it, you will see usually an official press release from myself and or you. And so when we do those, the goal is if we have the information available to be able to just provide just a little bit more clarification. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes really our official press release is almost just regurgitation of what the initial stuff came out, because we just don't have the ability to put different things out. But if we have it, that's the goal, is to just answer maybe some of those questions and just give a direction of like what we had going on, and put those out. And so we do put those out, like you said, on the Facebook page, Facebook and Instagram. They actually go out. The general procedure is that they get drafted, and then they get dropped on our social media pages. And then directly after that, they get sent out to a pre-created list of local media around the state, city council, the mayor, all of our internal administration, and then city administration. Everybody gets that then. County attorney's office, everybody's on that list, so that they're all getting the same information that I just shared with the public. And then if we have updates later on, we'll do an official update. But yeah, it's just to expand, usually, is the goal of the official press release.
Sure, absolutely, and trying to get that information out. And we understand, we get that, and the general public want to know what's happening, and whether it's their neighborhood or a friend or somebody, or just seeing a police presence. We understand that, and we want to get that information out as quick as we can to you. However, there are times that it could jeopardize an investigation. There's information we can't release, and we want to make sure that we are giving every bit of time needed and necessary to make sure that we investigate the crime as properly as possible. There's they'll say we want to make sure that we treat everybody in the public, there are people that are crimes that we're investigating, like we would expect somebody to do with our family. So we do ask for a little grace there in that we're not always able to release every bit of information that may be asked by the public at the time, but there is a reason behind it. We don't withhold information. We are transparent in what we put out, but the reason being that we don't always put out every single detail to it is there's an ongoing investigation, and then it has to go through the judicial process of court and adjudicated and those types of things as well, and then that stuff is usually it becomes public information most of the time after that. So it's just kind of a patient waiting game, but just to letting you guys know that we are working on it. It's we give out what information we can to keep you apprised of it, and then we're able to hand it over to the city or county attorney's office with a bow on it, and let them take the legal process side of it there. So that the initial press release though is very helpful and gives out that information so we can get it out to you there. So any other thoughts or things you want to give out to the folks here, Matt?
No, I'll just expand just one quick thing on, because you just hit it right, that like it takes some time to get some of that information. It really this age of social media has really changed the way a lot of our investigations play out.
Absolutely.
And the timeline. And so a lot of times we'll get some pressure wanting to know, like, hey, where is this? Like, how come this person hasn't been arrested? Like, they committed this offense, and for whatever reason, at this point, nobody's been charged.
Sure.
Usually it's because there's an active investigation going on, and almost all the time, what really holds us up on some of those is dealing with some of these social media platforms. So much of them are involved somewhere in a lot of these major investigations. It's a real process to gain information or to gather information through search warrants or other means from those pages, and they take months and months to get. And then even sometimes just as long to go through the hundreds of pages of documents that you obtain. And so while we're on the topic of social media and the waiting game, it really has changed the time frame of some of our major investigations in utilizing these pages to benefit the investigation. So just another one of those things that unfortunately it's a waiting game, and a lot of things that we don't actually have a lot of say in. We're kind of at the mercy of when the information comes through and how quickly we can analyze it.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point to hit on, and very much needed, and and something we understand that there is frustration at times and people want answers now, but again, we are doing our job to give you the best product that we can in the end, and work through a crime, whether it's charging somebody or dropping charges. Just because we're investigating something doesn't mean that we are, every person in it's going to get charged, and we have to weigh that and establish probable cause and work it through the process. So just kind of recapping our conversation, is Facebook is a great way for us to reach a wide audience of people, getting the information out to our public about things that are going on, why we're doing what we're doing, or where we're at and what we're doing there. There's also the balance of making sure that we're protecting the integrity of the investigation, that we're not giving out too much information, and we answer what we can, whether it's through the messenger app or people calling in, that type of stuff, or it's talking to each other. But we also caution those of you that are, that are on the comments portion and getting information there that is, could be speculation, could be something that, someone thought they saw or anything like that. And then letting another side story develop off of that too. So, but we do appreciate all of the positive influence that you guys give us on there, the support you're giving us on Facebook itself. It truly helps out. We identify quite a few people off there on our crime prevention page. And it's a really, really nice piece that we're able to kind of fill our puzzle with to investigate crimes and to communicate and get linked in with our general public here in Billings. So Matt, thanks again for coming with us today. We really appreciate you giving out the information you've got there, and we just hope you guys have a good rest of your week here, and we will see you next time on the 504 podcast.